start. Who's interested in IPT before I run you on through this? Well done, you! You two are going to get lots of attention. Brilliant. And I'll try and bring the rest of you over. How many of you turned up knowing which course you were interested in? So there are floating voters, and there are some confirmed, and there are some that I'm going to try and bring over from whatever dark side you were on to the wonders of this. Yeah, okay. So I'm Russell Law. I lead on the IPTA course. So it's interpersonal psychotherapy so it's working with adolescents. Though actually we've moved a little bit from there. We, for the last few years, have been IPT for adolescents with depression. Actually moving a bit further down the age scale, so it would be pre-adolescents as well as adolescents in the group that we work with. So, let me just check. Both those of you who are interested and those of you who are debating being interested, are there any key questions you want to make sure that I get to? Because I can run through the slides, I'm sure you'll be able to access them. What would you like to know? Even those that are deciding not to come, if you've got a question, I'll answer that as well. Okay, that focused me. That's fine. I'll give you general information and it might prompt you. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about what this therapy is. So, it's as many therapies for young people. It started its life as a therapy for adults. And I actually think it's done quite a good job of adjusting appropriately developmentally to work with adolescents as opposed to being just sort of slightly shorter and a bit more colourful. So there's a lot in it that I think actually fits thematically and in the way that it's delivered that's good for adolescents. I was interested to discover, just to sort of maybe give you a little bit of background, for me, I am quite a lot of things to do with IPT in the country as well. So I'm the lead for, I didn't introduce myself, did I? So I'm a clinical psychologist, I'm the lead for IPT on the course, and I'm the deputy director, kind of overseeing training across the whole course as well. I'm also chair of IPT UK, which is a national organisation. So I run training for about 20 plus years on IPT for adults, as well as IPT for adolescents, and as well as now kind of the family-based work for pre-adolescents. And I was surprised to discover recently that I actually looked into NICE for adolescents before adults. I didn't know that. I should have done, because I was in most of those jobs at the time. But, so actually it kind of led off there, but the dissemination has been even slower than it's been for adults. And I was the national lead when it went into the adult service, which it did first. And then a few years later it joined CYP IAPT. So what does it do? It focuses on things, and I think this is a kind of thematic part of it, that I think are interesting to adolescents. It's about relationship difficulties, the changes that are happening in their lives, the conflicts and difficulties they get into with other people. So from that point of view, it's a relatively easy sell, in a way that sometimes something like CBT, which is a good evidence base, it's an equivalent recommendation, might not always be, because you've got to kind of chase where those kind of thoughts are, and you've got to do homework and all of that. So I'm going to do any of that. So, we talk to young people about those kinds of things we think they're interested in, and we call them the focal areas. So, young people will come to you with a very complex, messy, often chaotic, challenging set of circumstances. And what we try and do is tease out a sort of central theme that we think actually we could kind of hang quite a lot of the difficulties that you're experiencing in your mood around this. Thinking of that kind of as a gateway into the difficulties, not assuming that there's just one problem going on. And then what we try to do with that is we're aiming to, because primarily you're looking at depression here, so you're trying to have fewer symptoms of depression, difficulties with depression by the end, but a more general kind of improvement in the target area of difficulties, so maybe getting on better at home or with peers, or having managed a big change that was a struggle for you, perhaps. A family I worked with this morning, a little boy, pre-adolescent case whose dad died, and in the aftermath of dad dying very suddenly and unexpectedly, kind of stepped back out of life and hasn't been able to go to school since last year. But when he presented, school was the issue, dad was a kind of little tiny issue for him. As we've kind of helped him with his mum's assistance and school's assistance to get back into school, he's kind of saying, actually, school's not such a big issue because I turned up and it was alright, I wasn't really that worried. But dad's quite a big issue now, and now we get to talk about dad, and why, even though he's behaviourally progressing really well, he just feels sad. And he's kind of connected with that. So that kind of emotional processing and facilitating that discussion within the family would be a big part of what we would be doing. If you're working with adolescents, it's a 12 to 15 session weekly intervention, but we really emphasise contact with parents. So we have a minimum of 3 additional sessions with parents throughout that time. So again, I was doing an assessment this morning, young lady who, a little bit unusual in terms of her target group from an evidence point of view, young lady who probably has autistic spectrum disorder but is as yet undiagnosed, but is feeling very isolated as she goes into kind of her peers just don't make any sense to her. Why are they talking? Why are they not listening? Why are they not doing? She gets, and she kind of manages it by withdrawing. So I spent an hour with her mum this morning, and mum was desperately trying to remember everything she had to tell me. And I said, it's okay, I'm going to meet with you lots of times, and we'll keep talking, and we'll keep that going. You don't have to have got it right this time, otherwise the information doesn't come through. So it's kind of, although it's not a family therapy, we work within the system where the young person lives. So, what you try and do is you take that complex story, you kind of give lots of psychoeducation about the nature of depression and kind of what we know, we try and understand that in context, we stick with that theme and work that through for the period of the therapy. And it works, some of my colleagues, former colleague on this course said, you know, it's a bit frustrating when you hear what IPTA does, because we come up with all these great ideas in CYP IAPT about kind of following goals and using measures and all that stuff, and you're doing it already. So actually we've got a very easy fit with lots of the things that you'll get in this kind of integrated course of core skills and kind of key principles. They're just there. It's already what we do. So there's really no conflict at all. There's been 7 RCTs looking at a variety of different settings to evaluate this, and it's been shown to be either equivalent or superior to school counselling, to CBT. Hasn't gone head to head with medication, but it's sort of run in parallel with the group who were prescribed medication and those who got IPT and seeing how they've done. We've got not a huge amount of information, to be honest, about what happens with young people in the UK, other than the data we're gathering, and actually the data we have in a non-randomised way from outcomes on this course, which I'll show you a little bit about, give us actually a bigger data set than some of the published studies. You know, in terms of Hispanic, North American, Israeli and Taiwanese kids, we know quite a lot. So if you're working with any of them, yeah, we know quite a lot about that. The rest we have to take a little bit of a leap. And what we get, which is one of the things I was telling this mum this morning, is 50 to 82% of kids who come through and get this approach in the studies are no longer experiencing symptoms of depression or no longer at a kind of diagnosable level by the end of the intervention. So we've got reason to be optimistic. But it doesn't do everything, so it's one of the tools in your pack. Let me show you. In terms of the type of difficulties, I just ran through all of the students who've been on the course since we first ran it. And most of them, biggest leap is for the focal area you're not meant to use, which is kind of isolation. But if you ask any, I wrote 2 books on IPT, and I renamed the focal areas in the adolescent one, because I didn't want to call it what was originally called deficits, kind of obvious why I didn't want to call it that, or sensitivities, to talk about isolation. So every teenager comes in and goes, that's me, I've got that. That's where I am. You kind of work back a little bit from that. We use that a lot. Kids who kind of just, they don't quite find a way in, and that's a struggle for them. Big focus on transitions. Conflict actually is interesting. That's coming up as a bit more common this year with the new group. Grief is not because I think it's not around. I think it's just because of the way services work quite often and we redirect it somewhere before you get to do that. Most people who use this as a focus around some kind of traumatic or just very unusually or sort of depression-related bereavement find this a very, very effective, engaging way to work. And I'd say from that example this morning, I would agree. We get pretty much the same outcomes across the 4 focal areas, which is not what the kind of common view might predict, which would say if you go with the sensitivities, I've got no friends and people don't make sense to me, that it shouldn't really work there, but we're not finding that that's the case. And what we're also finding is that although this is a treatment for depression, we see a marked improvement on anxiety as well. So this is the ARCADS, which gives us an overview. I like using the ARCADS because you'll get the young person's view, you'll get the parent's view, and then we get to look at it and say, are you both tackling the same problem, or might that be one of the things that we're trying to at least get you tackling the same difficulty? But we see both coming down. So I'm not concerned that as a treatment for depression, we have to find lots of young people with pure depression, because you'd be twiddling your thumbs quite a lot if that's what you were looking for. But if you've got young people who've got that mix of kind of mood-related difficulties, there's something to offer. The other thing that's really exciting, I think, is that in this year already started, and if you decide to sign up for this course, we are extending the training to cover the family-based work, which is based on Laura Dietz's work, and that's for pre-adolescents. So it's not dissimilar in terms of length, kind of organisation, focal areas, but because you're working with kind of younger children, then the parents there all the time. So you do joint sessions, you kind of check in with them both, have a bit of time with the young person, a bit of time with the parent, where we kind of feedback what's going on. I'm doing casework just now with Laura, very kindly, having come and done the training for us last year, and she's supervising my casework and my initial supervision with this. I've not had as much fun doing clinical work as I have with this for a while. It's just, I can't see anything else, it's a complete delight. And you know, that's with kids kind of sitting and I'm tired, and all kinds of stuff. It's just lovely. I really, really enjoy it. The other thing that we're doing, Jamie Young's work, and what she's done is taken all of the principles and ideas of this and put it into a group setting. And this is a prevention intervention, so this might be kind of step 2, tier 2, I can't remember which one's tier and which one's step for adult and kids. And so it's looking at teenagers who might have some indication and risk or beginnings of symptoms of depression but not yet diagnosable. So we bring lots of kind of role play and discussion about communication tips and trying things out within a peer group to develop more interpersonal skills and reduce the rate of diagnosis coming forward. So we're getting in both earlier in the process of depression and younger in the development as well. So that's a bit of a whistle stop of what it is. Any questions or anything you want me to clarify about the approach? Anyone more interested than they were 5 minutes ago? Well done, hurrah! I'm 2. I've doubled my numbers, it's brilliant. So it's 19 days, delivered over 2 years. Obviously, that's the IPT particular stuff, and that's in conjunction with the core skills. So what we do is sort of give you a block at the beginning, where I probably do kill you with PowerPoint, but not quite. But lots of information, so you get an overview, you get kind of what does this model look like, and then we break it all down and visit it in a lot of detail and kind of lots of skills development over the next 2 years. And so we have these workshops, and that will include two days worth of training on the family-based work and 2 days worth of training on the group, and they're going to be delivered on a Monday, and it's going to be in our timetable. And what we do to fill the space between those workshops is you'll have once a month you'll come in and you go into small groups. So a group might be a group round about the size of this, probably slightly smaller actually, 4 to 5, and you stay together all the way through the 2 years, and you learn about each other's cases, you show each other your work, you look at the videos together, and we're going to go into really detail, like bring the stuff that you're struggling with as well as the things you're having success with. Let's work out what else you could do there. So once a month we'll get together and do that. In between times, you'll have your own practice tutor, and you mostly, to be honest, it's delivered by telephone just because of we're still relatively small in number, but you get that kind of personalised somebody who will follow you on that journey. They will watch clips, they'll think about the casework with you all the way through. They're with you every week during term time, and you'll have about up to 10 of those calls also between term time as well, so we're carrying you through that as well. We are trying to complement that with, you will have a site supervisor, somebody you work with already who's kind of giving general oversight to the work you're doing and helping if there are any kind of safeguarding or risk issues. If they've got IPT knowledge, it's fantastic, but we know that we're not yet a big enough work population to necessarily be able to cover that, so we will support and help them there. What do you need to do? You're going to write up, so you do your core skills like everyone else. You'll be doing your IPT work for year one, and it's kind of really nice the way that the part-time course works because you get to practice. Yeah, you get to give it a go, you get to find out how you need to change your language, your approach, your conceptualisation. If your cases don't finish, it's okay, you can still use them to write up your casework. So you kind of almost get a year of getting familiar with it, and then in year two, it would be great, brilliant if you finish your cases in year one, but it doesn't stop you progressing in the course if you don't. In year two, we're looking for at least 4 cases to be completed right the way through. To be honest, we don't have a very high dropout rate, so it's not a great challenge. At most, 1 or 2 young people, in my experience, don't finish for some therapists. There's loads of therapists who start casework, finish it, and it's exactly the same number they start as they need for the course. So, actually working with adolescents, that's not a bad claim to be able to make. It works young people. So you're going to write up 4 of them, and with 2 of them, that will come with a whole session where we'll look at that and think about it in terms of the competencies. But we do loads and loads alongside that. So I've told you about that kind of the tutorial. And I'll be honest, I ask you to really think. I ask you to reflect, to think about what's happening in the case. So you write up some kind of guided notes each week and send them in. Say this is kind of where I think the key points of the therapy figured and what I did this week. This is where I used what we talked about last week. And this is my question. This is my clinical dilemma that I'd like to use to focus the discussion we have so we really get the most out of it. So you're really actively invited to be a very active participant in your learning rather than a kind of passive, tell me what to do. We'll give you lots and lots of guidance, but we really want you to be learning with us. And there you will do, in order so that you are hitting accreditation standard by the end of the training as well as getting the postgraduate diploma, you will do lots of self-assessment using the competency framework with the recording. So you really use that as a material to help you learn, help your peers learn, inform your supervision. And so for each case that you do, 3 of your sessions will be self-rated and you'll get very detailed verbal and written feedback from your practice tutor to help kind of move you closer towards competent practice. And that's the bit that will get you accreditation at the end. I think I've largely told you about this. Year 1 is going to be core skills. So you're looking at sort of 3 cases that you want to get started in year 1, 4 cases you want to get completed in year 2. If you get further than that in year 1, it's fine. You've got some in the bag that can go for your assignments, that's okay. But we kind of quite actively encourage people not to take on lots and lots of extra casework so that you get more thinking time, more reflective time, rather than kind of trying to race on and clock up cases. You could potentially complete a family-based IPT case, you could potentially complete a group as part of the course requirement, but it's not compulsory. So we'll really look at, well, who are you working with? If you're working with little ones, then maybe we'll bring this, but otherwise you might just be informed by that. If you're working with adolescents who are not yet depressed, then you might run one of the groups, but again, you might just be informed by it. So there's lots of generalisable skills that goes, that's why I want it in the course. You know, my practice with all of the supervisors on that training, they all came back and said, even if I'm not doing that, my individual work with adolescents is way better because I've thought now about how to work with and talk to parents in a lot more detail, or I've thought about how to use role play and exercises in a way that I wasn't really using before. So you don't have to do that specific casework, I think, to benefit from it. Yeah, I think I probably covered all of that. And this is what the students have told me. We talk a lot about using feedback, and so I'll give you their feedback. because these are the people who a year ago or 2 years ago were in your position and have now tried out the course. So I ask these questions every session, and I'll give that at the beginning until we start every session. So what did you tell me last time? And is there anything we need to pick up on? Is there anything we could do to get better? So they're thinking it's relevant, it's busy, but it's manageable, clear enough, and we stay with the questions. And then this is what they said in more detail about what they liked about the course. So I'll leave you to read that. They talk both about the kind of delivery of the course, but they also talk about the supervision and practice tutorial work that they got. That's the people who sat in your seats. Are there any questions? Anything you'd like me to clarify? Having already doubled my rate, just but anything else you'd like to know?
Could you say a little bit about supervision?
Yeah.
As in a supervisor supervising someone who's doing this?
Yeah. So there's sort of two strands. For everybody, you'll have a site supervisor. For a lot of the other modalities, they are going to be practicing in that. So CBT, for example, it's fairly safe there. For our site supervisors, we probably have, I don't think we've even got half at the moment, who practice or know about IPT. So that might be quite general supervision, but we link in with IPT practitioners if at all possible. The course practice tutors who would work with you are all accredited IPT supervisors. So quite a number of them have done this course, so they're really insightful to that. Not all of them have. So some have trained in IPT outside of that. So they will have done their 4 cases, they will have done extra, so they'll have casework closely supervised on all of the focal areas, all of it recorded and with that feedback. Then they have done another 5 days supervisor training, usually with me, and they've done sort of lots of experiential work there. So that gets them to accreditation. Most of them have quite a bit of supervisory experience in this model before they come on. Not all of them. Some of them are kind of coming on the journey through. They've done their CYP IAPT practitioner, then they go into the supervisor training, and then they come through. They all get supervision from me once a month. We all get together, and I closely monitor and track what's happening with each of the students' progress. Are there any difficulties that we've got? One of our practice tutors is also what's called an associate clinical tutor, so it's her responsibility to also think, are there any problems coming from a service level? Might not be able to get cases, might not have video, or there's difficulties with backfill or something like that that actually just gets in the way with getting on the course. So she would come in there and help out there. But so there's a very kind of close, ongoing dialogue and communication. So between those meetings, that would be what's happened. And so the supervision's about an hour a week, and you would be invited to do some paperwork that says, I'll tell you about what's happening, but that's also designed to guide you in what do you need to do next, what's happening in this session, have you remembered these are the key things to be done? You would send a clip in as well. And the supervisor would either watch that in the group with you or watch it ahead of time, so that they could really focus the supervision on the question you're bringing. So it's getting very, very close to the clinical material as well and the skills development. And they would also watch sort of 21 hours of full session work. So they're really looking at how you pace, organise, structure sessions, and across a whole range of competencies, and give you kind of very detailed written feedback on that as well as verbal feedback. Does that get it right? Thank you for the question. Anything else?
I guess I wanted to ask, and then you sort of answered it in terms of the kind of variance between kind of maybe depression. It wouldn't have to be purely depression, I guess. But I guess I was wondering about that in terms of the kind of model. And has it always been orientated towards? Okay.
Yeah. So it would be sort of depression plus, rather than sort of not quite getting to depression. So it started as a treatment for depression, and what's just much clearer is, and also the younger you get, the more anxiety's in the mix. There have been quite a number of studies looked at sort of what happens to the anxiety symptoms if you're targeting the depression. It's generally a positive thing. What happens if you go after just the anxiety and depression's not in the picture at all? That's been a bit more of a mixed picture. I think that's also only been with adults, and they've not modified it when they've done that. They're kind of going, if we just did the IPT the way we normally do it, what happens? It's not too surprising that in a slightly different symptomatic pattern, exactly the same thing wouldn't quite match. But particularly as you go to the younger age group, and certainly with the family-based stuff, they're very explicit in saying we expect high levels of anxiety. So I would always check separation anxiety and depression every week with the younger kids, because I just don't ever meet them when they're not. That's not what's going on with them. Yeah. But we kind of try and work that. But depression is always at the heart of what we're doing. Anything else? Have I at least retained you two as interested? Interest is all I'm looking for. Just lie to me right now. Make me happy. It's my weekend. And I'm going to rely on you two still staying interested. Did I bring any other swinging voters into it? I might give it some thought. Thank you very much. You've made my day. I feel like a huge success. I've already asked for questions and comments. I really wasn't inviting your questions and comments very much. It seems to have dipped into the next one. So now it's questions and lunch. Which I'll hand over to. Thank you very much for your time. Good luck with everything. Your next plans are fine.